She had no food, no coat, no home. But when she found a dog shaking in the cold, she gave up her only blanket and curled around him to keep him alive. She didn't do it for attention. She did it because she knew what it felt like to be forgotten. If this story touches your heart, please like, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who still believes in kindness. Because sometimes, the smallest hearts carry the biggest love. The wind that night was sharp. It cut through the alleys like knives, biting the skin, numbing the fingers. Most people were inside, warm under blankets, sipping tea or scrolling their phones. But Maya, only 12 years old, sat with her knees pulled to her chest in a forgotten corner of the city. She wasn't crying. She'd already done that yesterday, and the day before that. Now she just stared ahead, her eyes tired and dry. Her coat was gone, stolen while she slept 2 nights ago. All she had left was an old, torn scarf wrapped around her neck. That's when she heard it, a soft, trembling whimper. She turned her head and saw a cardboard box near the dumpsters. Inside it, a small brown dog, soaking wet, curled into itself, shivering hard. Its ribs were showing, its eyes barely open. Maya stood up slowly and walked over. "Hey, buddy, you're freezing too, huh?" The dog didn't bark. It just looked up weakly. She knelt down beside the box, brushing away some of the snow, and without thinking, she unwrapped the scarf from her neck, the last thing warming her body, and gently placed it over the dog. "It's not much," she whispered, "but at least it's dry." Then she crouched down beside the box and stayed there. No one told her to. No one was watching, but she knew what it felt like to shake in the dark, hoping someone would care. And now this little creature was feeling the same thing. So she stayed. She stayed until her fingers went numb, until her breath came out in clouds, until her eyes grew heavy from the cold. She curled up next to the box, pulling it closer to the wall to block the wind. And before falling asleep, she whispered softly, "I won't leave you, I promise." That night, the girl with no home chose to protect a dog who had even less. And that choice would change everything. By morning, the sky had turned gray. Thick clouds rolled in, and the air felt heavier, like something was about to break. Maya sat up slowly, her back sore from the concrete. Beside her, the dog was still alive, but barely. He didn't move much, just opened one tired eye, then closed it again. "You made it through the night," she whispered with a tiny smile. "So did I." She named him Echo, because his little cries were the only sound she heard all night. As the wind picked up, Maya walked the nearby streets looking for food or help. She passed a soup kitchen, the line was too long. She passed a bakery, the owner shooed her away. Finally, she found a city shelter, one that sometimes allowed walk-ins for bad weather. A man at the front desk looked her up and down. "You alone?" She nodded. "Cold's getting worse. You're lucky we've got one mat left." He pointed to a hallway with heat lamps. "But no pets allowed. Leave that dog outside." Maya turned to see Echo, curled up weakly near the steps, his nose to the ground. She froze. That shelter was warm. It had blankets, maybe even food. But Echo, he wouldn't survive another night out here. Her eyes welled up not from cold, but from the choice. She looked back at the man. "Then I can't stay either." He blinked. "You're choosing a dog over a warm bed." Maya didn't answer. She just turned, picked Echo up gently, and walked back into the freezing streets. That night, the snow came down harder. Winds howled through alleys. Cars slowed, streets emptied. And in the quiet shadows of the city, a girl who had nothing held a dying dog in her arms and whispered through chattering teeth, "You're not alone, okay? I'll keep you warm, just stay with me." The storm was relentless. Snow piled along the sidewalks like blankets of silence. The city lights flickered through thick fog, and even the usual street traffic had vanished. No footsteps, no horns, just cold. Somewhere beneath a broken bus shelter, Maya sat huddled on the concrete floor, her knees pulled tightly to her chest. In her arms, wrapped in the last piece of her scarf, was Echo, the small, sick dog whose body was now still and barely warm. She wasn't sure if he was breathing anymore. Her lips were blue, her fingers too numb to feel, but she didn't loosen her grip on him, not even when she felt her own strength slipping. "Stay with me, boy," she whispered weakly, her voice cracking, "please." But Echo didn't move. Her head slowly dropped forward, resting on his tiny back. She wasn't crying anymore. She was just tired. The morning after, the storm passed by dawn. The sky was soft and white, the kind of stillness that comes after something dangerous. Eli Grayson, a sharp-jawed man in his late 30s, walked his golden retriever, Charlie, through his usual morning route, the one he took to clear his head before drowning in emails and silence. He didn't expect to take a different street that day, but Charlie tugged the leash toward the alley behind the bus stop. "What is it, boy?" Eli muttered. Then he saw her. A girl, small, frozen, curled around what looked like a bundle of rags. He rushed closer. The rags were fur, and the girl, she wasn't moving. "Hey, hey," Eli dropped to his knees. "Are you okay? Can you hear me?" No response. Her eyelids fluttered just once. She was still alive, but barely. He touched her shoulder ice. Her arms were locked around the dog, as if her body had frozen mid-embrace. "Call 911, he barked into his phone. "I have a child unconscious, hypothermia, and an animal both freezing." His voice cracked, not out of panic, but from something deeper. Something about the way she held the dog like it was all she had. It reminded him of someone. A long time ago. Hours later, Maya woke up under hospital lights. Warmth, blankets, beeping monitors. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. Then she sat up suddenly. "Echo, where's Echo?" A nurse gently touched her shoulder. "The dog, he's okay. They wrapped him in thermal sheets. The man who found you paid for the vet, too." Her eyes widened. The man. In the waiting room sat Eli Grayson, billionaire, developer, investor, and lately, a man who felt like life had turned to ice. He stood when she was wheeled in, unsure what to say. She looked smaller than he remembered, pale, exhausted. But her eyes, they were clear now, afraid but still kind. "You saved us," she asked softly. Eli shook his head slowly. "You saved him, I just followed your example." She looked down, confused. "Most people wouldn't have stopped," she whispered. He smiled painfully. "I almost didn't, but then I saw the way you held him. Like he was the last good thing in the world." Maya didn't answer. Her throat felt tight. No one had ever said something like that to her before. She reached out weakly. "Is he okay?" A nurse opened the door. Echo trotted in, tail slow but wagging. He jumped on the side of her bed, curling instantly beside her. Warm, alive, just like her, and for the first time in a long, long while. Maya smiled. Eli Grayson wasn't the type of man who cried easily. He had built empires, signed contracts worth billions. He had outsmarted investors, politicians, and media storms, but nothing had ever felt as real as the moment he saw that girl. Holding that dog like it was the only thing left in the world. He couldn't stop thinking about it. Even now, sitting in his office, wearing a suit worth more than what most people made in a month, he couldn't focus. Her voice echoed in his head, "You saved us," and his own reply, choked with something he didn't recognize at first. "You saved him." He opened the top drawer of his desk. Inside, folded carefully, was a small dog collar. Faded red, a little bell attached. It belonged to Bailey, the scruffy terrier that had once followed Eli everywhere as a child. She had belonged to his little sister, Myra. Myra was the soft one, the kind one. She was the one who fed strays behind their mansion, the one who cried if she saw a dog get kicked on TV, the one who snuck food to Bailey under the table. And then she got sick. A rare condition. Fast, unforgiving. Eli was only 14 when she died. Bailey, who once barked happily at the gate every time he came home, lay beside Mara's bed until the end, and stopped eating after she passed. 3 days later, Bailey went missing. They searched, the family offered a reward, but the little dog was never found. Eli never talked about it. Not to his parents, not to friends, not to therapists. But seeing Maya cold, broken, and still refusing to let go of that dying dog, it cracked something open. She held onto him, like Mara held onto Bailey, he whispered to himself. It wasn't just pity he felt. It was recognition. Later that evening, Eli walked into the hospital quietly. He brought a bag with fresh clothes, snacks, and a small stuffed dog with floppy ears. When Maya saw him, she looked confused. "You came back." He nodded. "I wanted to ask you something." "What?" He sat in the chair beside her bed, his voice soft. "Why didn't you go into the shelter? Why didn't you leave the dog behind?" She blinked. "Because I've been left behind. I know what it feels like." That silence again, heavy but real. Then Eli reached into the bag and pulled out a soft gray hoodie. He handed it to her. "I don't usually make promises," he said, "but you're not going to be forgotten again." In that moment, something changed. Not just in Maya, but in him. Because the billionaire who had everything had just remembered what it meant to feel human again. The hospital stay didn't last long. Thanks to Eli, Maya had the best care. And once she was stable, body warmed, bruises checked, energy slowly returning, the doctors agreed she could leave. But leave to where? The social worker began filling out forms for a shelter placement. Maya stayed quiet, eyes down. She already knew how that would go, the looks, the pity, the cold rules. They'd take Echo from her, again. But before they could finish, Eli stepped in. "She's coming with me," he said firmly. "Mr. Grayson, that's not how this works. I've already filed temporary guardianship paperwork. She'll stay at my estate under full supervision, with the dog." The woman paused, confused. "But why?" Eli looked toward the hospital room window where Maya and Echo sat huddled on the bed, sharing a sandwich. "Because she reminded me of someone I failed to protect. I don't want to make the same mistake twice." Later that day, Maya stepped into the Grayson estate. Not a mansion, a fortress. Marble floors, tall windows, white walls that felt too clean to touch. She stood in the doorway, Echo in her arms, frozen in place. "You can breathe," Eli said gently. "You're safe now." But Maya didn't move. She just whispered, "Are you sure I'm allowed to be here?" It wasn't a question about rules. It was about worth. Eli didn't answer right away. Instead, he crouched beside Echo and gently patted his head. "If he's allowed to stay, so are you." The days that followed, Maya was quiet, careful. She tiptoed around the house like a guest in a museum. But Echo, he flourished. He got stronger, slept in warm beds, learned to climb stairs. He started playing again, chasing balls, wagging his tail with joy. And each time he ran to Maya, Eli noticed how her shoulders relaxed, how her eyes lit up, how her laughter echoed, soft, unsure, but real. One night, Maya set a plate down at the dining table and looked up nervously. "Is it okay if I sit here?" Eli looked up from his tablet. "It's your seat now." In the corner of the room, Echo curled up beside the fireplace, tail tapping gently against the rug. 3 souls, 3 scars, but slowly, something new was blooming between them. And for the first time in Maya's life, she didn't feel like a visitor. She felt like she might belong. Just as things began to feel safe, the past came knocking. It started with a phone call. Eli stood in his study, listening to the voice on the other end. "Calm, clinical. We've received reports of a minor being housed in your residence without official placement. Unless adoption or legal guardianship is established, this may fall under unlawful custody." Eli's jaw clenched. She was freezing to death. "No one stepped in until I did." "That's not the point, Mr. Grayson. You're not a foster parent. You're a billionaire CEO. You can't just pick a child off the street and bring her home." The line went quiet for a beat. "We'll be sending someone to assess the situation." That evening, Maya noticed it right away. Eli wasn't speaking as much. He kept checking his phone. His shoulders looked heavier. At dinner, she barely touched her food. "Am I in trouble?" she asked softly. Eli looked up. "No, you're not. I may need to go through a few legal steps to keep you here." Maya's eyes dimmed. "So they're trying to take me away." Eli didn't want to lie. "They might try, but I won't let them." "They'll take Echo too," she whispered, voice cracking. "Not if I have anything to do with it." That night, Maya packed a small bag in secret. She had been here before, in other homes, other shelters. People meant well, until someone said she didn't belong. She wouldn't let Echo be taken away, or locked in some cage, just because she wasn't legal. She wouldn't watch it happen again. So she waited until the house was quiet, and slipped out the back door. But Echo wasn't asleep. He followed her, trotted quietly behind her, limped beside her like he understood her sadness. She held him close and whispered, "I'd rather be cold with you than warm with people who don't want us." She didn't know where she was going, just that she had to go, before they made Eli choose between his world and her. The house was too quiet, too still. Eli walked past the guest room with a mug of tea, planning to check on Maya and Echo before his late-night conference call. He knocked gently. "You two asleep in there?" No answer. He pushed the door open. The bed was cold, the blanket folded, the small backpack he'd bought for Maya gone. And so was Echo. He didn't hesitate. "Maya," he called, voice rising. He checked every hallway, every room, even the garage. Nothing. She was gone. His heart raced in a way it hadn't in years. Not during mergers, not during media attacks, not even when his company's stock once dropped overnight. But this was different. This was personal. He grabbed his coat and car keys. No driver, no security, just him and a desperate need to find her. "Come on, Charlie," he said to his golden retriever, who barked once and followed. They hit the icy streets just after midnight. Across town, Maya crouched in an alley beneath an old bridge, arms wrapped around Echo. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but she didn't regret leaving. "They'd take you away," she whispered. "I'd rather leave first." But the wind was cruel. and her body hadn't fully healed from the last storm. Echo licked her fingers, whining softly. "We'll be okay," she whispered, even though she wasn't sure she believed it. Back in the car, Eli rolled through the same downtown streets where he had first found her. "Where would I go if I thought I was protecting someone I loved?" he muttered. Then he remembered. The bridge, the old bus shelter. The first night he found her, he turned sharply and drove faster. The moment he pulled up, slowed the car, headlights sweeping under the bridge. And there she was. Maya curled up with Echo again, just like the first time. Frozen, exhausted, but still holding on. Eli jumped out of the car and ran to her. "Maya," her eyes fluttered open. She looked up, shocked. You came." He dropped to his knees. "Of course I came. You think I'd let you disappear again?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I didn't want to ruin your life. I didn't want to be the reason they took your world away." He pulled her and Echo into his arms, voice shaking. "You're not ruining anything. You are my world now." And just like that, in the same place he first found her, he found her again. Only this time, he wasn't letting go. They returned home just before dawn. Maya sat quietly in the back seat. Echo curled on her lap, eyes closed but breathing steadily. Eli glanced at her through the mirror. Her face was tired, stained with dried tears, but she looked safe again. Back inside the mansion, he gave her a cup of warm cocoa and made sure she and Echo were wrapped in blankets. "Sleep," he whispered. "I've got this now." That morning, Eli didn't show up for his board meeting. He didn't check his stock portfolio or return calls from investors. Instead, he was in court with his lawyers, paperwork and a calm fury in his voice. "I want full custody, permanently." The clerk blinked. "Mr. Grayson, she isn't related to you. You've only had her a short time. She almost died twice on the street and no one cared. I did. And I don't care if I have to rebuild the system to make it happen. She's staying with me." The room went silent. His legal team shifted nervously, but Eli didn't back down. He presented the case, the medical records, the shelter rejection, the emotional trauma, the fact that no one came looking for Maya until now. And finally, he submitted a personal letter, the letter to whom it may concern. "I know the world only sees me as a CEO, a billionaire, a man who's used to control. But the truth is, I lost my little sister when I was 14. She had no one fighting for her except our dog, who slept beside her every day. Years later, I found a girl on the street doing the same thing, choosing a cold night over leaving her dog behind. That kind of loyalty doesn't come from a child who's been loved, but from one who knows the pain of being abandoned. I didn't adopt her out of pity. I want to adopt her because she's already my family, and I'm done waiting for permission to love her out loud." Signed, Eli Grayson. The courtroom was quiet when he finished reading. The judge didn't respond immediately, but her eyes softened. "We'll review your petition for emergency guardianship immediately." Back home, Maya woke up in a soft bed to find Echo snoring beside her. A note sat on the pillow. It was simple. "We're not hiding anymore. I fought for you today because you're not my guest. You're my daughter's." And for the first time in her life, Maya didn't feel like something temporary. She felt claimed. She felt wanted. She felt home. The courtroom looked nothing like the places Maya was used to. This one had sunlight pouring through tall windows, a vase of fresh flowers on the judge's desk, and a warmth in the air that didn't come from heaters. Still, she sat nervously in her chair, holding Echo tightly in her lap. Eli sat beside her in a dark suit, not his usual armor of power, but today he looked like a father. The judge smiled gently at them both. "Maya," she said, "do you know what today means?" Maya nodded slowly. "That someone's finally saying I get to stay." The room chuckled quietly. "Yes," the judge said softly, "but it's more than that today. We're not just giving you a place, we're giving you a name." Eli squeezed her hand. "If you want it," he whispered, "you can. Take mine." Maya looked at him, really looked. This was the man who had once passed her on the street, and now he had given her a home, a voice, and a reason to believe she was worth fighting for. She nodded, tears welling up. "I want to be Maya Grayson." The judge stamped the papers. Echo let out a soft bark. And just like that, it was official. Picture. As they walked out of the courtroom, a photographer from the courthouse offered to take a family photo. Maya stood in the middle, Eli on one side, Echo on the other. Right before the shutter clicked, Echo suddenly jumped up and licked Maya's cheek, making her laugh out loud, the kind of laugh that bubbles up from deep joy. The photo captured it all. Her smile, Eli's quiet pride, Echo's mischief, and the undeniable look of a real family. That night, Maya framed the photo and placed it beside her bed. Under it, she wrote one line in messy handwriting. "He saved me, I saved him. Echo saved us both." A year later, the city looked different to Maya. The cold streets were still there, the bus stops, the alleys. But this time, she wasn't sleeping under them. She was driving past them, warm and safe in the backseat of Eli's SUV, with Echo's head out the window, ears flapping happily. They parked outside a local shelter. Maya stepped out, holding a box of supplies, blankets, jackets, dog food, and handmade cards. Inside, she met the children. Some were quiet, some smiled. One little boy clutched a stuffed animal with a ripped ear and wouldn't let go. Maya knelt beside him. "You know," she said gently, "I had a dog who saved me once." "A real one?" he asked. She smiled. "The realest." As the kids gathered around her, she told them her story, not about the pain, but about the change. About the man who saw her. About the dog who stayed with her in the storm. About what it meant to matter, even when the world said you didn't. Back home, Maya sat in the garden with Echo lying across her feet. Eli brought out hot chocolate, setting 2 mugs down beside them. She looked up at him. "Do you ever think about that night?" "Every day," he said. "The night you saved someone. I just did what I wished someone would have done for me." He nodded slowly. "And because of that, you saved more than a dog. You saved me, you saved us." Maya leaned down, kissed Echo's head, and whispered, "We're not broken anymore, boy. We're whole." She gave everything she had to save one small life, not knowing that small life would lead her to her future. A girl who had nothing but a scarf and a heart full of love is now building a life full of purpose, peace, and family. If this story touched you, please like the video, subscribe for more emotional stories, and share it with someone who still believes that kindness, even in the cold, can change the world. And if you've ever been rescued by a dog, drop it in the comments. Let's tell their stories. See you in our next video.